Hello everyone, it's Nick here. Now some friends were talking at work quite recently about the show Big Brother. It's like, well, you know what Big Brother is, isn't it? They put cameras in a house and chuck a load of people in and watch them for God knows how many weeks and gradually vote them out. But I couldn't join in this conversation because I haven't watched Big Brother for absolute years, and to be honest, I didn't even know it was still on. But I saw the first few series years ago when it was normal people going in. Well, I say normal with a pinch of salt. Then it was a celebrity Big Brother, which I got more interested in. But as time went by, it was getting to a point where I'd only recognise about one of the celebrities or two of the celebrities. And the last one I physically watched was with Jack Dean. So you Big Brother experts out there can tell us what year that was. And since that point, I didn't watch it at all. The audience figures started dwindling. It was on Channel 4 at the time, and then they cut it. And then Channel 5 bought it, and now they've started putting it on. I don't know if the viewing figures are getting any higher or anything, but it was pretty old hat to me, and not one of my old hats. And I got to thinking, now who would have to be on that show, which celebrity, before I'd actually start showing the vaguest of interest. So this video, I put together my fantasy celebrity Big Brother house guests. If Channel 5 put this team together, which is impossible because sadly some of these people have passed on. I say sadly, but not in one particular case. Maybe you can guess which one. But yeah, they put these together, then I would definitely watch. I believe that you have 16 house guests in total. So imagine now's the opening night. I've arranged everything. The press are there, the music's thumping, you're a mad person in the crowd, drunk, jumping up and down with lots of other drunk people. There's a big catwalk into the house, and here we go. Who's coming out first? Who's coming out first? Oh, it's Adolf Hitler. Yes, Adolf Hitler. Guaranteed to get on with no one. I'd always put him as the first guest in the house. Adolf Hitler, leader and Führer of the Nazi Party from 1935 to 1945. He has a terrible haircut and an evil moustache, some say stolen from Charlie Chaplin. Where is that moustache now? Nobody knows. If you know, maybe you should contact the A-Team and have it removed. Adolf Hitler was well regarded as runner-up in World War II. Guaranteed to get on with nobody, renowned for being short and opinionated, and being a bit shouty, will not take instruction well, doesn't work in groups unless he's telling the group what to do, and his compassion level ranks below 0. This is Adolf Hitler, everyone, everyone's least favourite friend. So as he walks through the catwalk into the house, there's no one to talk to at the moment, so he just strolls in the kitchen, hands in his pocket, just looking about like a weirdo. Yeah! So that's our first guest in. The cameras are on him. What do you think so far then? Is this a great Big Brother? I think we need to send someone else in for him to talk to, don't we? So let's announce the let's announce the second person. Big cheers from the crowd. They're already in a massive frenzy from that first guest. They did a lot of booing as well, it has to be said. But now we have the audience a little bit different here. It's Marilyn Monroe.
Hi. It's me, don't you remember? The tomato from upstairs.
Born Norma Jean Mortensen. She's an actress, American and model, and one of the most popular sex symbols of the 1950s. Famous for playing dumb blondes in a variation of films, including Some Like It Hot. She had a terrible private life though, struggled with addiction, depression and anxiety, but she strikes a few poses on the catwalk before actually wandering in. She looks very confident out here, but in the confines of the house, I think she might lose that quite quickly. She would be a time bomb waiting to go off in there, I think. She wanders in, and she sees Hitler. She recognises Hitler, but she doesn't go over and talk to him. She wanders to completely the other side of the house room. So, you know, those two aren't going to get on. There's not going to be much conversation there. In fact, Marilyn Monroe's starting to look a bit scared and vulnerable already. Okay, so how do you follow those two people? One iconic in history for being evil, and one iconic in history for being a sex symbol and troubled woman. Well, the only thing we can do is bring in KARL Pilkington. KARL Pilkington, a Mancunian presenter with a head like an effing orange, Ricky Gervais always says, and that's the filtered down version. Now, KARL Pilkington, he's an author and former radio presenter. His take on life is peculiar, to say the least. It is rather unique. Into the weird and supernatural, this man. His favourite weirdos include the Elephant Man. Pilkington is extremely entertaining without even trying. I don't know if he is trying, but it doesn't look that way. This man is comedy gold, bound to have a great time. And yeah, he's not remotely aware of what's going on most of the time. He's most famous for shows like An Idiot Abroad, The Ricky Gervais Show, and The Moaning of Life. He's a world championship moaner. A wife is Suzanne. Is he married or is it his girlfriend? Might be still his girlfriend. And Pilkington will probably ask him to leave within about 2 days, so he'll be straight into the diary room. So let's have a look as KARL Pilkington, as he meanders into the house. He sees Marilyn Monroe, says alright, and then glances at Adolf Hitler and immediately starts questioning him about stuff. Hitler doesn't seem too impressed. Pilkington asks, World War II, was it worth it? Hitler shakes his head. Whee! Now, there's one strong character in there already, so it's time to step it up, I bet. Let's send in some femme fatale. Next up, we send in Grace Jones, Jamaican singer, lyricist and supermodel, record producer and scary as hell. She appeared as Zula in Conan the Barbarian alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger, and also as Mayday in the Bond film A View to a Kill. She has a very short temper and once attacked British interviewer Russell Harty mid-interview because she thought he was ignoring her. She's the most likely guest to cut off your leg and eat it in front of you. Easily agitated, will have many run-ins with more or less everyone in the house. She is one scary woman. She wanders in now. She completely ignores Pilkington as if he's something she's just trod in. She scowls at Hitler. What else is she going to do now? She hasn't a clue what's happening, and she goes over to Monroe. She looks high on drugs, but we know she isn't. She's just a mad cat. Go Grace Jones. So insofar we've got Adolf Hitler, Marilyn Monroe looking a bit scared in front of Grace Jones, KARL Pilkington whittling on to Hitler, and if the Gestapo were there he surely would have been dragged away by now. And Grace Jones. Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. Next in we'll send it in a sporting legend. It's time to up it again. It's the wonderful, the fantastic Muhammad Ali. Arguably the greatest boxer and sporting showman of all time, crowned Sportsman of the Century by the magazine Sports Illustrated, and Sports Personality of the Century by the BBC. He's deeply religious, loud, ambitious and supremely confident of all his abilities. Ali is going to be a formidable character in there. Would love to see him in a shout-off against Adolf Hitler or many of the other guests. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, larger than life, hard not to like. He bowls in. He's not really saying a lot, but he's doing lots of punching of the air. He just glides to the back of the room, making eye contact with no one, and does a bit of shadow boxing. Maybe he's just psyching himself out for the main event. Here we go. He's shouting a lot of stuff, though. Marilyn Monroe doesn't know what's going on. Hitler glances over and glances back again. He still seems to be locked in a conversation with Pilkington. The crowd cheer again. It's probably the most popular guest so far. It's good old Dolly Parton, American country singer and songwriter and actress. She's nearly always overly happy to a point it will make some people quite ill. She even has a theme park named after her. She's so popular. Talented, funny and feisty, she sure can stick up for herself. Her country singing though may get on a few people's nerves. I can imagine Pilkington coming in mid-song and telling her to shut up at any time during the coming weeks. We'll try to get on with everyone in the house, even Hitler. But he's bound to get annoyed because Dolly Parton's going to turn everyone's life into a song at any point. She drifts over to Hitler. I don't know what's going on. She says hello to everyone, but making eye contact with no one at all. She goes over to Monroe and Jones. Pilkington says, all right. Yeah, you just know at some point she's going to get that song with Adolf Hitler.
Your mustache, it couldn't be littler. Please calm down, Adolf Hitler, or you won't make it to 1949. Da 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 da. If you stop your bombing and all your great belonging, then one day maybe you will end up mine.
Now for a bit of craziness into the fixture, he's a bit eccentric, this fellow. It's the 4th Doctor Who. It's good old Tom Baker himself. Turns up wearing his scarf, wide-eyed at the crowd there, really lapping it up. Mad actor and writer, most famous, as I say, for the 4th Doctor Who. Originally studied as a monk, but gave that all up when he was 21 years old. He's the most instantly recognisable Doctor Who of all time. There's been quite a few by now. If you see Doctor Who in a cartoon, it'll probably be him. In a BBC poll in 2006, he was voted the world's 4th most eccentric person, somehow beaten by Bjork, Chris Eubank and Madster David Icke. Has played such characters as Oscar Wilde and Sherlock Holmes. A member of the National Theatre. In a house, his mind is quite likely to go off on a flight of fancy, which no one will be able to understand. To say he's a bit mad is slightly an understatement. He goes in, he offers Muhammad Ali, the greatest sportsman that ever lived, a jelly baby. Muhammad Ali takes one and then starts doing a rap about jelly babies. Well, he's made a friend there already. Oh my goodness, the crowd are booing again. It's even louder booing than when Hitler turned up. It's Katie Hopkins. Now, to my knowledge, I think Katie Hopkins might have been on Channel 5's version of Celebrity Big Brother, but she's back again and she never had to cope with guests of this stature. Katie Hopkins is pure poison. I believe she may, as I say, been on the show before, but she really doesn't care what she says and who too, and seemingly has no regard for the public consequences. She used the guise of freedom of speech as a sort of like weapon for racism, classism and any other ism that dropped into her mind 2 seconds earlier. She has no redeemable features whatsoever and will probably get off with Adolf Hitler or voted off before him or one of the two. There we go, or both. She goes in and surprise, surprise, away from the booing, she gravitates immediately to Hitler, winks at him and he looks at her with a level of disgust that we haven't seen for quite some years. So much, in fact, that Hitler has to leave the room. He might be being sick in the one toilet in the whole of the house. Jones has just hit Carl Pilkington after he asked her if she was a man. So it's all hotting up already in that super house. It's a cauldron of despair. So we're halfway through. What do you think of the guests so far? We will be having a recap at the end, but this is set to be the most firesome Celebrity Big Brother of all time. Now already we're halfway. If you can think of any guests that you want to put in to your own personal one, then indeed put them below. I considered hundreds of people and a few others didn't quite make the cut. So getting on to the 9th person to walk in. It's the most elderly guest we've had so far. It's the great Sir Patrick Moore. Eccentric astronomer and awarded the Commander of the Order of the British Empire. He's self-taught on the xylophone, the glockenspiel and as a pianist. He's best known as a long-time presenter of the BBC's Sky at Night, but I first knew him for the games programme Games Master with Dominic Diamond, who isn't going in. Top monocle wearer, highly intelligent and speaks incredibly fast. There's no one or never been anyone quite like him. Expert in the moon, single-minded, will not be fazed by any of the other guests. See what I did there? Phased. That's like phases of the moon. So Sir Patrick Moore walks in. As I said, he's bound to be asked lots and lots of stupid questions by Carl Pilkington. Moore totters in there. Parton asks him if he wants to sit down. He takes a seat there and thanks her, and she offers him a cup of tea. Well, Dolly Parton, she's an all-round nice person. In the background, Eiley is continuing to shadow box and does a rhyme about tea for some reason. Baker wanders off there eating another jelly baby. The next guest, number 10, it's a female guest and she might struggle because maybe she's a bit too nice for this. It's Paloma Faith, beautiful pop, soul and jazz singer. I don't know why we've committed her to such an atrocity of being in this place. She has a nice demeanour, she's inventive, she's creative and more than a little bit cookie. May get trampled here, has a unique retro eccentric style. Apparently she once worked briefly as a magician's assistant. I don't know about that. Maybe you can do your research. I'm not sure how this is going to help though, to be fair. To survive she's going to have to make friends with people, but I don't know who and I don't know how. She enters the house, she laughs and is completely starstruck by Marilyn Monroe. Grace Jones has shut up a bit, thereafter punching Pilkington. Pilkington sits down with Moore clutching his face a bit and asks the question, is there life on the moon? Let's send in number 11. It's Samuel L. Jackson. This guy is one cool super dude, but can flip to have a fiery personality. He would take no prisoners if people disagree with him. He's a wonderful actor with a great depth of personality, which somehow George Lucas managed to completely remove when he was cast as Mace Windu in Star Wars The Phantom Menace. I don't know how he managed to do that. That must have been a complete work of utter genius. He will get on with our guests as long as they get on with him and as long as they don't call him Lawrence Fishburne, which KARL Pilkington will probably do at some stage. He waves to the crowd, enters the door and gradually moves into the house. He doesn't seem really in that good a mood. He walks in but doesn't really talk to anyone. His eyes are focused elsewhere. He does wander over to Muhammad Ali though and they exchange a high five. Muhammad Ali does a few more punches and does a rhyme about high fives. He really is, well, bringing excitement and energy to the room. Guest number 12. It's Joan Rivers, American actress, comedian, songwriter and producer and TV host. Controversial in her view as a comic, especially towards celebrities and politicians, very acerbic in her attitude, she will cut people down to shreds with her humour, says what she wants but is funny with it, was the first woman to host a late night network TV chat show, very keen on cosmetic surgery which she also jokes about, could seemingly joke about just about anything to anyone, a very sharp wit indeed, could easily have fun at someone's expense without them even knowing. This woman is Big Brother gold. She walks in after waving to the crowd and doing a few more jokes. She's walking in, not really looking at anyone in particular, constantly doing a round of jokes, 10 to a dozen. This woman won't stop talking. No one can get a word in edgeways. Grace Jones seems a little bit annoyed and she's completely and utterly left the room. So we've got quite a lot of guests in the house now, all interacting in their own ways. As the weeks go on, I'm sure there will be a lot of fighting. But to be honest with you, this isn't actually happening. This is fantasy, so don't get too carried away. Although I'm talking a good game and making it seem real, I'm sure this is not actually happening. It's celebrity Big Brother. I don't think we can afford all these people either. And number 13, everyone's favourite mophead politician. It's Boris Johnson. The only other mophead politicians he's got to beat are Donald Trump, to be honest, so he wins hands down. Now, Boris Johnson, world champion bumbler MP and somehow Lord Mayor of London. Don't know how that worked out. He must have some sort of cheat mode going on. Always gives the impression he's not fully aware of all the facts and gets by, one would say, winging it. He's not immune to political and public gaffes such as knocking over a 10-year-old child during a rugby game in Japan. He's obviously very clever underneath it all though, but can get a rush of blood to the head and do some very stupid acts. We'll not remember most of the other guests' names and refer to them probably as something like Old Bean. Boris Johnson looks pretty embarrassed and he wanders into the house to greet them all. He seems completely at unease. He's not interacting with anyone, but not in a cool Samuel L. Jackson way, just as an old pottering way. Under his breath he mutters, "What am I doing here? Total balls up." Pilkington wanders over and asks, is he an albino? Very tactful, that KARL Pilkington. So we've only got 3 guests left to make our top 16. Crowd cheer again, a very popular lady. Housemate number 14, Kathy Burke. Kathy Burke rolls with the punches and can take anything that's literally thrown at her. She's an English actress, comedian and playwright, and also theatre director. Most famous for her parts in French and Saunders, Harry Enfield's television programme, and also Absolutely Fabulous, but I like her best in the sitcom Gimme Gimme Gimme. She's got no airs and graces and will find allies very quickly. She can say anything as well to anyone, and anyone can say anything to her, and she probably won't take it that personally. Probably drinks pints and can punch people in the face with full force if necessary. She comes in, she starts chatting immediately to Paloma Faith. So Paloma might have found a friend in there, so she might survive after all. She suddenly notices Marilyn Monroe and says, "It's bleeping Marilyn Monroe." There we go. She's forgot she's on telly. Don't shout or swear, Davina Rules used to say. But that won't mean anything to someone like Kathy Burke. She'll be swearing all the time. House guest number 15. Now, a bit of a controversial one this, because it isn't a proper person, it's someone from a novel. It doesn't actually exist at all. It's from a Mary Shelley novel, have you guessed it already, but we might as well have a bit of fun and put them in anyway. Yes, it's Frankenstein's monster. Yeah! Created by Victor Frankenstein in the novel by Mary Shelley in 1818. I think having a house guest that could possibly kill any of the others at any given time will add a whole new dynamic to the actual show, and that will get my attention for sure. Frankenstein's monster is 8 foot tall and a hideously ugly creation, so could well be a love interest for Katie Hopkins. That's someone for her to gravitate to. Now Frankenstein walks in with an unearthly gait. He looks like bits of him are going to fall off at any point. Samuel L. Jackson glances up as Frankenstein comes in. "What the hell is that?" he says. Faith says, "What is it?" Pilkington says, "If you don't move, he can't see you." Burke looks at Pilkington and then says, "That's bollocks." Well, they're already gelling as a team, really. Can you imagine it? Are you pitching in the picture there? You'd watch this show, wouldn't you? Definitely. So one last guest left. Who could it possibly be? Yep. It's your favourite monarch. It's Queen Victoria. Whee! She doesn't look very amused at all, in joke there. Without being weighted on hand and foot, she won't be amused by anything. She was the Queen of Britain from 1837 to 1901. She's unlikely to even attempt any of the house tasks, which will annoy everyone silly, and she'll gradually get on people's nerves more and more. One of the most iconic monarchs who ever lived. She will not understand any of the other housemates because she lived in a totally different era. Paloma Faith may bring her an occasional sandwich, but apart from that, I think she's going to have very few friends in there. She shuffles in at 2 miles an hour. Maybe she should be on a trolley with someone pushing her around. She looks around, a bit nonplussed about everything. Tom Baker wanders over and offers her a jelly baby. She doesn't take one. Tom Baker wanders off. So there we have it there. That's my list of Big Brother celebrity guests, which will have to be there for I have to watch. So here they all are then. Here they are. So who will win this competition then out of this mob? We've got the hated Adolf Hitler, KARL Pilkington, Muhammad Ali, Tom Baker, Sir Patrick Moore, Samuel L. Jackson, Marilyn Monroe, Grace Jones, Dolly Parton, Katie Hopkins, Paloma Faith, Joan Rivers, Kathy Burke, Queen Victoria, Boris Johnson, and Frankenstein's monster. What a bunch. There we go. I hope you liked having a look at that one. As I say, if you've got a top 16 or anyone else that you would have put in different to me, by all means question below or put it below. Other guests which almost got in was Mark Twain. Who else? Rasputin, Sweeney Todd, Donald Trump, but to name a few. So there we go. Until next time, never go on Big Brother unless you're really, really desperate. Until next time, take care and goodbye.
Goodbye.